not so much. With regard to the refugees, sure, there's no requirement to be stupid, along with being generous. So my short summary would be simply that I would advise the chief executive to speak like and act like Mother Teresa, and then before the meeting broke up to grab whoever's filling my chair now, pull him aside, poke his finger into his sternum, and saying, and you make sure nothing bad happens. We can do both. We're talented. We've got talent at this.
Should we be worried about them? The Syrian refugees, isn't it harder to get in?
Yeah. There is a danger. We should be prudent about it. But just simply saying it ain't going to happen is actually destructive of our security, not just destructive of our character.
This is another example of overreaction in our country, and which we see after, I think, every terrorist attack, and Congress almost always overreacts. It's all axiomatic. But look, first of all, the fact of significance, I don't think, was that there were a couple of people with Syrian passports that came into Europe that way. The fact of significance was that there were foreign terrorist fighters who were Belgian citizens, French citizens of other countries who had fought and been trained by ISIS and had European passports and were able to come freely back into anywhere in the EU and within the Schengen Agreement, any country of Schengen. That's the more scary data point, if you want to look for one, than the refugees. Because the refugees, look, we're able to, it's a long process. We are capable of vetting. Look, it takes astute counterterrorism questioning. It takes what General Hayden said, a president who tells the Department of Homeland Security secretary, make sure somebody that faces a security threat doesn't get in. But that process takes time. There is vetting. There's certainly the opportunity to make sure that the refugees that we do admit do not pose a security threat to our country. But the visa waiver program, I think, actually poses more of a threat, because we had, the estimates are 5,000 Western Europeans, French, Belgians, UK, that have gone off to Syria and are fighting for ISIS. I mean, some of them are going to be killed and that sort of thing. But now we know ISIS is intent on sending some of these people back asymmetrically to attack countries in the West. Okay, so that's the more, I think, fact of concern. I do think, by the way, I've told you a little bit about the fact that we do have some protections in the visa waiver program. Congress just strengthened these protections by making it clear to the Europeans that if they want to stay in the visa waiver program, they're going to have to share information with the United States, with U.S. authorities, with respect to their own citizens who have gone off to fight with ISIS. And they're going to have the capability of knowing who they are. And that's an intelligence issue. But let me just say, I'm not too impressed with what our EU colleagues are doing with respect to even having the data that we need to help protect not only them, but ultimately to help protect the United States.
They weren't sharing that information before? If someone went to go and fight in
look,
Syria?
there's some sharing on the intelligence levels, but the fact is they don't. If you're a German citizen, you've been to Turkey for 6 months, you come back into Germany, they don't even know you've returned to Germany. There's a random checking occasionally of passports in the international airport of Frankfurt of their own citizens. Or you could fly into France. You could be a German who was radicalized and trained there. I'm just saying they're so far behind in terms of actually having a system to protect their own borders. And it's not just Schengen. I mean, their external borders, which are protected by the weakest nations of the EU, Greece and Bulgaria. The second largest land border port of entry in the world actually is Capitan. Where's that? It's between Turkey and Bulgaria. Second largest, by the way. The first largest is San Ysidro on the Mexican border, San Diego. But their external controls in terms of border controls and using border authority are almost non-existent. And so they don't even have the data to share with us in many instances.
Right. Abaoud, who was the so-called brain behind the Paris attacks, was on a watch list. He was one of the most wanted men in Europe, and he came back and forth several times between Greece and was traveling between Brussels and France. And Germany. So that's an example. Let's talk a little bit about encryption.